What up? What up? What up? What's going on, everybody? Oh, let me not yell too loud. I think my girlfriend's sleeping, which is fine because you can leave all that intro anyway. What's going on, everybody? Speakers of the podcast, season 4. I don't know what episode it is, but you know, whatever. It doesn't even matter. Today we are one person. Well,
yeah,
we're one person less today. We don't know where Tunde is or what he's doing. I'm sure he's doing something that's very important, but he will not be here today. But we have a temporary replacement, at least for this episode. But I am the host for the moment, Smooth Order.
Lextopia. I guess I'm next since Top 7's not here. He's probably in Vegas having Bible study.
Oh, wow.
He's always in Vegas, though. Don't lie.
It's me, the Negroid Android.
And for today's special guest, we have...
What's up, y'all? I'm Sam Whiteout, and I'm excited to be joining the podcast. I feel like I have very big shoes to fill since we're one person down.
Nah, not really.
That's cool. I just want to point out that Sam's first corny white person moment was waving peace signs to people as if they can see us.
Wait, time out. Hold on a second. On the list of things that we not finna do, one of them that this is video as well. That's what we're not about to do. That's not about
Bro, I told you was gonna get roasted the whole time. I told you, fam.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
But
what I don't want to do is spit all my coffee on these damn white blankets on my face.
We're not gonna roast you because you're
Lex
white.
likes white blankets, but not white people.
Woo, exactly.
Exactly. We're not gonna roast you because you're white. That's racist. We're just gonna roast you because you're you, which is not.
Black people can't be racist. Sorry, we just gotta add that in there.
Oh, why don't you tell us about it since we're there?
Already. So today, the first portion of this podcast is probably going to be mostly about Sam, and then the rest of the podcast will, of course, we're just going to jump in with commentary as we always do. But Lex is actually going to be running today's podcast. So, Lextopia, the spotlight is on you. Wait. No, I guess it is on you. It is on you. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I was saying earlier too that for once I'm not the brightest person, so we have to use video for this one for sure.
Just as evidence.
Right. Not the brightest person on the podcast today. FYI. All right, so shut up, Des.
I didn't say shit.
You meant by skin color. I thought you was like, are you saying you're stupid?
Oh no. Wow.
The brightest person on the podcast today.
I like where this
what is she talking about?
I see what's going on here.
I hate everybody.
What is she talking? She's saying she's stupid. I'm like, you're not stupid. You're smart too. She's like, she meant like she's not the only light skinned person on the show. My bad. Go ahead.
I hate everybody right now.
That's real.
So much.
Weren't you the one who was just saying I better get ready to get roasted? So
you know what? But that wasn't supposed to be about me. That was supposed to be about you, our guest. So okay, so Sam.
He gentrified your insults.
Right.
All right, my bad.
And G's just over there just giggling away. Forget you. Okay, so I feel like everybody probably is a little bit familiar with you, Sam, but I want you to kind of tell us, like, how did you get to where you are, right? I feel like the first time I ever saw you was you, like, shimmying on an Instagram video or some shit. And then next thing I know, you were like...
This is the white Kappa?
Yeah, see? See?
Oh my god!
So that's what I'm saying, right? At first, it was just like everybody wanted to invite this white guy to the cookout because he was shimmying, right? And then next thing you know, he was like had a zillion followers and was a platform for like social justice and shit. So I just want to know how that progressed and just how that developed. Like, did you do that on purpose? Was that always your goal or what?
Well, I think that going viral was definitely not on purpose. I think it's kind of impossible to go viral on purpose. So basically what happened was I was at an event, hosting an event for some noobs up in Boston. And we were strolling at the intermission.
That was smart. They had you do it. That was smart.
Like they used him as a pawn.
It's Boston. Like, that was smart.
No. We're real cool with the Boston noobs. They come down to Philly all the time, and so I was up there.
I met the other people in Boston.
Oh, there was no white people at this event. Fuck out of here.
He was the lone one. He was the affirmative action hire at the Boston.
But so we were like strolling at intermission, and at that point, it wasn't entirely out of the norm for folks to take videos and for there to be kind of like a bit of that excitement. you know, around me being white and being in Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity incorporated. And so then what happened was, it sounds so like nitty gritty, but one of the girls who posted a video, when she posted it to Instagram, she also clicked that little button where you can like auto post to Tumblr, and it went viral on Tumblr overnight.
You got tumbled.
Damn. Exactly. And so then kind of from there, everything just snowballed, right? It was one of those things where all of a sudden there were all these extra eyes on me, and I'm like, well, I'm going to keep doing what I was always doing, whether it's finishing up school, doing job interviews, this, that, and the third. And one of the things that I was always involved in on campus was, I think, what we would now identify as activism. We didn't necessarily call it activism back when I was in school, just because we were like, well, there's shit that's fucked up, like we need to fix it. But I think in retrospect, it was definitely, you know, a form of grassroots activism. And I think that when people discovered that, particularly when it made its way to places like Bossip and Media Takeout, Nicole Bitchie, et cetera, and they were like, oh shit, like here's this Stroll video, but also look at what he's doing here, here, and here. And I think that was when people were like, right, this might be a little different. And that's when I was like, this may be a little different, because it wasn't going to be just like I mean, you can go on World Star every week and you'll find a new white person who's got a little 30-second video showing that they can find the beat, right? Like that's not as uncommon as people think. It's just whether or not there's going to be any longevity to it, because is there any substance behind it, you know?
So I didn't realize that's actually what spiraled you into the spotlight. It really was the videos.
Oh, it absolutely was. I think so. The videos went viral in like the end of January, and then I think it was around March that
like last year,
2015.
Oh,
so it was a minute ago. Yeah, and then when a bunch of the sort of mini articles, you might call them, started getting posted about like some of my activity on Twitter and some of the work that I was doing on campus, then all of a sudden people were like, oh shit.
Oh shit. So for once you were like the one white guy who did something cool, but then when they tried to dig in, it was actually good shit behind there.
Yeah, I never actually thought about it like that. Shit, I never thought about it like that.
But, you know, that's what happens, right? Anytime somebody gets some spotlight, all of a sudden haters try to find some shit, you know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, well, actually this person's racist, or this person did this, or he voted for Trump. And like for once, it was like that propelled you and you were ready for it.
I can guarantee that somebody looked up your Twitter handle and looked up nigga right next to your Twitter handle to see how many times you might have said nigga in the past before they's about to revoke the shit out of your cookout invitation. So
right, I'm sure they searched everything.
I mean, just look at the incident with Cam Newton's sexism, and then doubled on top of that, people started digging into the reporter's past, and she's like a casual racist, you know.
Yeah, it sucks. You really can't
be a casual. I feel like you can't be a casual racist. I feel like you got to commit to it. I feel like you can't be.
Or maybe it's so ingrained. Maybe it's like so ingrained that you don't feel like you're going out of your way to be racist.
Wait, who's the stand-up comic who talks about how you got to like earn racism? I think it was Michael Che. Michael Che has this bit on his most recent Netflix special, and he talks about how, you know, he doesn't call your average racist white person a racist. He's like, for me, racism has to be earned. Like, you got to have, like, being a racist requires like self-confidence, and like you got to like go out there and like do some shit to earn that title, you know? like a racist isn't out there saying like, yo, like down on themselves. They're like, yo, I'm the superior race, like shit.
Yeah, that's
so I
true.
think I use the word casual, or the phrase casual racism, to kind of refer to when you have white folks who are not out there, you know, with the tiki torches, and they kind of recognize that the tiki torches are wrong, but they're not really going to speak up against it. And they, when it's behind closed doors and they're not around people of color, they talk all wild crazy.
Until their friend posted to Snapchat, then they blow up.
Yeah, yo, I think it's interesting because like every week on Black Twitter, like there's another example of people kind of being like, all right, let's go ahead, do what we got to do. Like, this is where this person goes to school. This is the phone number. This is the principal's name, et cetera, et cetera.
Pretty much. Niggas love to get people out of here.
Yeah, you call my job, I'm fuck you up.
Right.
Yo, they need that at Villanova though.
Internet, it's multiple people.
You said what?
So,
can't fuck up the internet. It's multiple people.
shit. Do you see how many fades G offers every day on Twitter?
Every week. His fade list gets longer and longer.
Every week. So, okay, Sam, so my next question then is, So if we even go back further, right, than the whole shimmy video stuff.
Sure.
Why did you decide to join Kappa Alpha Psi when you could have joined one of the white fraternities and infiltrated actual white people and educate them and like try to help them? Like,
why did you say
you know what I'm
infiltrate
trying
like
to say?
he's not white? Need you to infiltrate white people, Sam.
It's like
a 007.
The spook who sat by the door, except he's like the spook who sat by the Starbucks. I like
Shut up. But that's what I wonder is like, why is it that when white people are about the cause and they want to help with progression of stuff, why not work with other white people to help them to recognize and understand and realize shit versus hopping into the black crowd already?
Sure. So I think that's a huge part of it. For me, Kappa didn't happen because I was interested in activism, right? That was not the genesis of where that social circle developed and where I got involved in Greek life.
You just liked black people. That's what you was already doing before. And then Kappa was like a natural extension of that.
I mean, less
but that's the missions of
Villanova. So to give some context, right? I went to school at Villanova, which is just outside of Philly. It's a very, very white, very Catholic, very conservative, very all kinds of typically associated with problematic stuff. And it's a really ugly place in a lot of ways, right? The same kinds of Trump-esque mentalities, but with everyone wearing Brooks Brothers and Vineyard Vines and like holding the door for each other.
That's in Philly, right?
Just outside, yeah, like 20 minutes outside of Philly. In like the white rich suburbs outside of Philly.
Okay.
And, you know, I got to Villanova. It was the only place I'd gotten in for undergrad. So that's how I kind of ended up there. And then I kind of found myself looking around like, what the fuck is going on, right? There was just such a barrage and a constant culture of racism and sexism and Islamophobia and homophobia and anti-Semitism. Like it was all packaged into one. And it wasn't necessarily that everyone at Villanova was a bad person, far from it, but it was that the worst people at Villanova felt comfortable being their worst selves there, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a very different attitude than saying, okay, well, there are some bad apples, but they are by and large sort of chastised, right? The whole problem was Villanova en masse was totally okay having a whole bunch of really terrible people feel comfortable at that school. Like they felt like they were at home. And so then what ended up happening was I tried to transfer, I tried to do this, that, and the third. There was this whole investigation, blah, blah, blah. Some of it was sort of affecting me personally, some of it wasn't. And eventually, I got in touch with some of the administrators and the professors on campus who were with the shits, who were the people who wanted to address issues of race and gender and sexuality and stuff like that on campus. And that was kind of my entree, both from an activist perspective and from a social perspective, into the Black community at Villanova at large, which was almost entirely the activist community. And so then from there, started hanging out with the other Philly schools because it's very much almost like a conglomerate of schools. And then my best friends, it turns out, were the Qs. And then I meet the Noops. And then it's like, hey, I think something here makes sense. And that's kind of how I got involved in Kappa. I think that talking to white people and working within my own community is a huge part of what I do. But I wasn't gonna put myself in a position of being miserable around the kinds of white people that I want to have nothing to do with from a social perspective.
Okay.
So,
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So, because what you said just what makes a lot of sense. Like you want to do the work, but when you're done doing the work, you want some people to kick it with. That makes you feel like shit, man. I'm tired of doing the work. I need to be able to free my mind from that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So like even before that, like how did you even come into like? Well, assuming that college wasn't your first experience around those kinds of white people, which sounds really weird because you're white. So it's like, oh, we're sectioning off white people now.
Yeah.
Whatever. So like, what was your experience with like? I don't know, we can call it activism or sort of consciousness or wokeness or whatever the fuck they're calling now. Like, what was your experience with it before you got to college? Like, was it something that you were aware of
Maybe
before?
you had really cool parents or?
Yeah, like what's the background there?
Well, I think it was a combination of things. I mean, so the town I grew up in is just outside of New York, about 40 minutes outside of New York in like the white suburbs of New Jersey. And the town has all kinds of problematic behavior, but it wasn't on the scale that Villanova had it, right? I had never encountered this level of both size, the magnitude of the bigotry, the intensity of that bigotry, and also the sort of brazenness of it, right? Like, at least when I was in high school, even the asshole kids, at the end of the day, right, they kind of knew what was accepted and what wasn't. At Villanova, there was this very finely tuned sort of understanding about what goes on publicly and what goes on privately, so that they could maintain this attitude of acceptance and we love everybody, and in actuality, that couldn't be farther from the truth. So I had experienced racism and shitty white people before. I was bullied a whole lot throughout middle school and high school, in large part because of the differences in how I saw the world. And I think that comes from my home life. Right? Like,
gotcha.
Like, the best way I can explain it is that all the topics that usually wind up in a family changing the subject were just open for discussion in my family, right? So like, if we saw something on the news, or there was a question, or my sisters asked something, or I asked something, oh, I don't get this, or what is this? Like, we didn't change the subject, we just talked about it, right? It wasn't like a classroom, but I think that had a huge part. And then I also think, lastly, and on probably the smallest level, there was a level of like cultural exposure that I was the environment was to support that kind of a cultural exposure. So I didn't grow up around a lot of Black people. I didn't grow up around a lot of gay people. But the attitudes that were displayed in my family when there were, for example, like media portrayals of Black people and gay people were very different, right? I grew up watching Sidney Poitier. Like, gay marriage was explained to me as like, they love each other very much. Okay. I was like, I don't remember what the names were, but I was like, my grandparents' friends or something like that is this, lovely gay couple. They'd been together like 40 years. I was like, well, do they have wives? And then my mom was like, no, they love each other very much. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't a big deal. And then I get to Villanova and I'm like, holy shit, my home life was way different than I had thought. Mm-hmm. I knew it was weird in high school, but it was when I got to Villanova that I'm like, no, this is like some otherworldly shit.
That's so funny that you said that about about gay people, like the two gay people that you knew, and your mom was just like, yeah, they love each other very much. And you were like, okay, because so many times when people talk about homophobia and how it breeds and sort of like how that dysfunction sort of grows in the community, people say like, well, when I see two men kiss or two women kiss, like, I don't know what to tell my kids. And I'm always like, your kids don't really care. Like, just tell them that they like each other. And then like kids are like dumb and smart at the same, like bunch of smart dumb niggas basically. Because kids will basically will accept, like, you'll tell a kid something, they'll be like, oh, okay. And then that's it. Like, they're smart in a sense where they're just like, it doesn't matter to them because all you have to do is explain to them, and they're dumb in a sense where they're just kind of like, okay, well, whatever. I don't really care. Like, I just need to know like why two men are kissing on TV, and that's really much it. Right. That's pretty much it. So and then that's actually very dope. I think that you grew up in a situation like that.
Yeah, and I'm incredibly lucky. I think one of the things I talk about all the time when I speak with, whether it's high school students or undergrads, is I have no idea what kind of person I'd have been if I hadn't been raised in that kind of environment, right? And that's kind of a little bit of a weird thing to reckon with, particularly as a white person. Like, certain people have been surrounded by these kinds of bigoted attitudes for their whole life, and it doesn't mean that they can't be broken out of it. But I'd also add that as beautiful as the simplicity of that conversation was, it then proceeded to get infinitely more complicated, right? Because then the questions become, okay, well, why do other people have a problem with Bob and Joe being together, right? And then you have to go into that. Okay, well, why are they? What does the word fag mean? Why is it being used, right? Like, and this is even from a very young age, because I think once you start off with the simplicity of like, okay, they love each other very much, that's why they're together, this is fine. Kids like, okay, and then all those outside influences start to come into play, which convolute the conversation and require parents to then get engaged. And I think that's the part that parents and white folks at large, and I'm using white folks kind of very broadly here, that's the part that people are concerned about. It's not the original question, it's the follow-up.
Yeah, because it's more than just how you feel and what you see, but now you see all these other people's opinions, and why does that not correlate the same way?
Exactly. I guess, and then it becomes like, well, that's just the way things are response.
Yeah. So it seems like your parents kind of didn't see things that were different as a threat. And I think that's kind of one of the main issues is that people's, I don't know if it's their self-esteem or like what's off with people where they feel like anything different is such a threat to them. Like it's a threat to my religion or a threat to, you know, me being able to be successful because of what somebody else has access to or can do or whatever. And I think it's good that you were raised a little bit differently, but how do you feel like, because you mentioned too that people can come out of it, but how do you feel like they can? How do you feel like people can change?
Yeah, so I think that you can kind of approach that change in two ways, right? You can approach it on sort of the interpersonal level and on the education level. So as much as people, myself included, will talk about how, you know, it's really kind of disgusting with the way that you see like men, for example, will always say, well, you know, they'll respond to sexism with, well, I have a mother and I have a daughter and I don't want them to experience this. Your proximity to somebody has nothing to do with whether or not they deserve to experience discrimination, right? At the same time, it can be a very powerful tool to leverage someone's interpersonal relationships to open their eyes to what they should have been seeing all along, right? So you can take any number of the examples of Republican politicians whose child or grandchild comes out as gay, and then all of a sudden they're okay with it, right? While I don't think that that should be required, I don't think that that should be ignored as a strategic tool, right?
Yeah, or maybe even with like, the portrayal of like Black people in media, for example, kind of being
100%.
portrayed as the other, or like we're super strong and big and all these powers, blah blah blah. But like if you actually had more friends or hung out with more people, maybe you care more. Like you think people just need to be more integrated, and that helps or that doesn't help? Because if there's fear or if I'm scared of something, then I still have to be open to wanting to care about you.
True, but I think that you know, integration is like the leading a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So are there going to be hardcore racists who could be in a completely utopianly integrated environment from home life to school life to professional life and still be racist assholes? Absolutely, right? But to be honest, those aren't the people that I'm looking to talk to. Those aren't the people that I'm looking to quote unquote convert, right? That's a poor value add proposition. I think that integration in all things, and I use that word very deliberately, of course, because for those of you who don't know, who might be listening, right, public schools are more segregated now than they were in 1965. Home life is incredibly segregated. It's never been more true that high noon on Sunday is the most segregated time in America. Like the literal segregation in housing and education and work life couldn't be more problematic now than it ever has been. And I think that integration is so important because it is at least more difficult, though not impossible, right? It's more difficult to be a super duper white supremacist and be surrounded by people who are different than you, right? Whether it's, yeah, I mean, I think it would be more difficult to be this hardcore white supremacist if you have a coworker who you work with on a daily basis who is Latinx, if you have a boss who is a Black woman, if you're like, or if from an education perspective, right, if you grew up going to a school where there was not just like one Black kid and one Hispanic kid, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only reason why I respect your opinion on the topic and your viewpoint. I just don't know if I agree, mostly because I don't necessarily, I think when you're talking about like the hardcore racist, right? Like the racist person that's always going to hate, you know, other people regardless of whatever the fuck, like those people can't be saved, right? We talk about like the white people that are closer to the line that are like, yeah, I can kind of see the humanity, but like I still kind of do casual racist shit.
Yeah, Dr. King's white moderate.
Right. Like I kind of still casually do racist shit, right? It's like, I don't know if integration helps those people in so much, because if you are a white person who can kind of understand like, okay, like I don't hate all Black people, I don't hate all Latinx people, I don't hate all Muslims, don't hate all homosexuals. It's like, even if you integrate those people, like those people are still going to hold, I feel like those people still hold those views because they're already at the exceptionalism point. It's not so much that they see all black people as equal, or all Muslim people as equal, or all gay people as equal. It's my friends that happen to be gay or black or Muslim.
It's like
those people are cool, but the rest of them, it's like what do they call that shit? Token Negroism, but like for everybody. You know what I'm saying? So
I think that that's absolutely a possibility. I think that the difference is that a genuine integration, and not just an integration on paper, but an integration in experience, particularly in education for kids, makes that more difficult. It doesn't make it impossible by any means. I think, if instead of having one black friend, right, you had 5 black friends, right, then it just makes it a little bit more. It raises the bar to reach that level of cognitive dissonance to be able to say, well, my black friends are cool, but that's really just because they only kind of act white around me, quote unquote, right? And like they don't act like those other blacks, right? For whatever identity group we're talking about. I think that real integration of experience makes it more difficult. I think that's, to be honest, very much at the center of the moral argument behind affirmative action, right? That diversity is not a question of statistics as much as is a question of, and again, speaking, I think from the education perspective, because it's the best example, like you will have a better education, you will be pushed to work harder and learn more if you're surrounded by a diversity of race and gender and religion and experience and socioeconomic class and all that stuff. But I think integration is huge in that capacity.
Yeah, you're also less likely to get killed, because I just read this report the other day that said that white people that live primarily amongst other white people, you're more likely to die in that situation than if you lived in an integrated neighborhood with like a whole bunch of different people in one neighborhood. Yeah, that was a fantastic read.
As a person of color, you're more likely.
No. As a white person living predominantly amongst other white people, you're more likely to be murdered or robbed or have some crime impressed upon you in that situation, as opposed to you living in a more diverse, however you want to use diverse and inclusive society. It was great.
Integration lowers the crime rate. This is a fact.
It is fucking fantastic. I guess it's just
because the other thing is, I think that alludes to the bullshit conversation around black on black crime, right? Black on black crime is meaningless because in a segregated country in which we live, people commit intra-community violence, right? People commit crime against the people who live closest to them. Nobody's going, 5 towns over to do home invasions, right? You're breaking into the people who live in your town, live in your city, live in your neighborhood, even if they're not your next door neighbors. So I think that is a good point, right? Integration lowers crime, boosts education. It's good for the economy. Like it's literally, there are no downsides, statistically or morally.
Sam, I have a question for you. How much do you feel like you have to walk on eggshells when you speak? As a white person, I feel like black people. Well, let me just speak for myself.
I want to say you said as a white person, and then you said I, and I'm like, oh, so you're finally admitting it?
No. Shut up. I'm not white.
That's so much.
Okay, so let me speak for myself. As me, like I feel like sometimes we wait for a white person to say something funny or like say something the wrong way, so you could be like, aha, you really think this, or whatever. But do you feel like you really, really have to either study/research like what the fuck you're talking about, or that you really have to make sure your wording is just right? Like, do you worry about that?
I don't think I worry about it now because I've integrated into my lifestyle. This is the way that I live, right? I think that a couple of things come to mind. The first of which is going to sound a bit elitist, but like people should not feel as comfortable as they do in any capacity talking about shit they don't know about.
I know that's right.
That's a way to live.
Right?
Like just say no comment. I don't fucking know. Like I don't know.
Or not even that, but just say like, I'm not sure because I personally take responsibility for the fact that I have not done reading. And I'm not talking, you don't need to open up a textbook, right? Like there's articles everywhere. There's 1,000,001 news publications now that actually center around really easy to digest, identity-based conversations, whether it's AJ Plus or Now This or Mother Jones or Vox or like, shit, you don't even have to do research in a book.
But I feel like you really have to be like a part of, like, so for example, and I'm always like talking about social media, but like on Twitter, for example, it's you really have to be in those conversations and see how people talk to understand how people are going to take certain things, I think. So
Yeah,
like, I think still you have to be there.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I do think that, you know, jokes aside, I think there is an extent to which people in a number of contexts feel far too comfortable just vomiting at the mouth as if they have something valuable to say when they have no basis for that opinion, right? An opinion, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I'm also entitled to be able to tell you that your opinion is stupid and lacking in all kinds of evidence. The sort of proverbial you. But I also think white folks have this real aversion to these conversations because of that fear, right? This fear that I'm going to get attacked, right? I can't say anything. Everything's too politically correct now. And bear with me, it's a little bit of a stretched analogy, but like, it's almost like a first-time driver coming to a roundabout, right? It's kind of intimidating.
Oh my God.
You know, it's kind of intimidating. It's like, I've never done this before, blah, 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 blah. It's really, really simple. It's not even two-way traffic. So look one way, and when there's no cars coming, just jump on into the conversation. It's not that hard, right? I think that when it comes to walking on eggshells, it's when you feel like you're walking on eggshells that you should say to yourself, I should probably ask a question instead of making a declarative statement, right?
Ooh. Or yeah, great answer, Sam.
Or when they get off at the nigger exit at the roundabout.
Right, like you can go one way or you can go the other way.
Like, yeah, have y'all seen that? Have y'all seen that meme that's been going around? It's like Patrick from SpongeBob jumping out of his little like whatever he lives under, and it's like his
under the sea, bro.
Yeah, no, that's SpongeBob. I'm talking about Patrick.
Oh, he lives under a rock.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he lives under a rock, and he jumps out, and you'll have like it'll be on Twitter. It'll be like,
oh, where he throws it.
Yeah. He like throws the N-word. And it's like when like the tweet will say like, you know, black people you know, we're taking a knee because of systemic, you know, racial inequities, and then white people will be like, well, why do you hate veterans? And then black people will be like, well, we don't. And then it cuts them off, and it's Patrick just throwing the N-word at them.
Like that's really what you just want to do right now.
But no, I think for like at the end of the day, there are a number of different solutions to not feeling like you're walking on eggshells, to not feel like you're about to be attacked. And at the end of the day, more than anything, using that as an excuse to not get involved in the conversation and to be quiet is morally reprehensible, right? Like
maybe also part of it too is kind of how we mentioned before that maybe there's some people who are scared to really dive into those conversations and understand it because they know that if you were to go back into their life, you would see certain things. Like how, for example, you know, you said went viral, whatever, but when you go into you like, oh, okay, like you are trying to understand, you've been working in this space or whatever for a while. So it's not like people can find anything about you. And I don't know, you know, what if I'm a racist white person or casual racist, whatever, and I really want to kind of understand stuff and I'm trying, but then I have all this stuff in my past. Like, so maybe you think like, why even really bother or why even try?
That's an amazing point. I think it's a huge concern for folks, particularly when they don't know really what qualifies as racism. So they're like, I don't even know what's in my past. I don't want to interrogate it. And I don't even know if it would be bad if I did. I think that engaging in these kinds of conversations requires a level of self-reflection that most people are uncomfortable with. And that's a level of self-reflection that is people are uncomfortable with in a number of different contexts. But I think that self-reflection,
because it can blow up now in front of the whole world, you know, like with social media and stuff. It's not even just me and you talking anymore. It's this whole shit could get me fired or something, you know?
And I appreciate that can be difficult, but at the end of the day, like tough shit, there's, you know, bigger problems.
Yeah.
Des.
So what I was thinking when you were talking about, you know, feeling threatened or things being a threat, is the threat not like the actual, I guess, industry of white supremacy? Because there's so many things, like if we were to talk about true equality, like I think one of the things, like you talked about the person who's racist behind closed doors and they have those kind of racist discussions behind closed doors. Do you think that they are more dangerous than the person who says, look, I'm not going to do anything to help black people, right? Because that's not my fight. I'm not black. That's their fight. But I'm never going to step up and try to stop a black person from having opportunity. Like, those people are essentially the same. And how do you then, like, because my interest is, how are you communicating to them in a way? Like, you have to be engaged. Like, the fire has to be equally under you because your kids will lack education, will lack an actual sense of the world if they're not interacting with Black people. How do you build that?
So just to clarify, so the two types of situations we're talking about are folks who are very upfront, like, hey, this is not my fight, I'm not going to get involved, but I myself am not going to actively participate in racism.
Right.
And then on the other side, you have the folks
who aren't, they're still not actively participating in racism, but they make nigga jokes with their uncles.
Oh, well, I don't mean to laugh. I think
no, it's okay. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah,
we know we're giving you the grill treatment. We're not trying to get you to answer all these questions.
No, we're not trying to trap you or anything.
No. It's all good.
Very rare that you get a white person who's willing to sit down and have this type of discussion.
Well, I think part of it is for the first person we're talking about. So the person who's going to be like upfront, like, hey, not my problem. I ain't dealing with this. I actually find them to be more difficult to engage with, right? Because there's this finality with which they've come to a conclusion about what their role is and what the problem is. And ultimately, both of these two proverbial people demonstrate a complete lack of understanding of the real problem. Because if you understood the problems of white supremacy, even on a surface level, you'd see that everyone suffers from this, right? White supremacy is bad for white people.
It really is.
I'll say that again. Like, white supremacy is bad for white people at large. There are a very small group of white people who benefit from white supremacy in benefit with in super tangible ways and over long periods of time, right? But your stereotypical, or not stereotypical, your average KKK member, right, is worse off as a white supremacist. Their education is going to be on a lower level than what it otherwise would be. Right? Like all the ways we've already discussed, and I don't feel, we don't have to rehash them all, but white supremacy is bad for everybody. So even if once you understand that, you see that, yes, is there obviously on a very life and death level more at stake for people of color, for women, for different religious groups? Absolutely. But white people need to realize that there are benefits to fighting white supremacy, right? Like, whether it's something stupid, like think of all the food and seasonings you get to enjoy.
Bro, like the world without Black people would be so fucking sad. No music, no.
You wouldn't have rock and roll,
like
hip
creative
hop, jazz. You wouldn't. I mean, like the list goes on, and it goes on for everybody, right? It's like the anti-Semitism from people who enjoy Broadway makes no sense, right? It's like all the different stereotypes are applicable, but on a sort of a
they want to enjoy all the products and the fruits of it, but it's like we still don't want to see you be anything or be successful, and it's weird.
Like slavery?
Yeah, I guess it goes back a while.
It does.
Can I pivot just a little bit to ask you, have you received any backlash from other white people? Like, do you ever get messages like, you traitor?
This is the shit that I signed up for. This is the reason I come to the podcast.
Like do people come at you like, you just want to be Black or like stuff like that?
What do y'all think? And then I'm
pretty sure
about you.
I'm willing.
Do you want to hear that?
Listen. So no. So I'm willing
to.
Wait,
what was Lex about to say? Wait, hold up.
Oh, go ahead, Lex.
No. I was just joking, Sam.
No,
I meant. Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm willing to bet my next paycheck you've been called a nigger lover at least 3 times probably this week. God damn it! I know somebody's called you that shit.
I've been called that to my face.
I know. Oh, absolutely. Dude, like I just said, I was willing to bet my paycheck that shit has probably happened.
I mean, I've gotten death threats. I've gotten all types of shit. I think
that's when you know you're on the right track.
But that's what I said. Yo, I wear that shit as a badge of honor. I remember I called my dad. I was like, Dad, I got my first, I think, like legitimate series of death threats. And he was like, oh, good shit. Keep it up. Oh, wow. Mom, we ain't tell my mom though. We ain't tell my mom.
Fair.
Well, hopefully mom doesn't listen to the podcast because
right.
That's gonna be in trouble.
Yo, my mom has like all my social medias on bookmark,
Google alert set and everything probably.
But I will add a very important asterisk to the criticism / violently, whether it's verbal or physical feedback that I get from white folks. It is on a scale that is infinitesimally smaller than the hate that my colleagues of color and my women colleagues and my Muslim colleagues, etc. get. It's just on a scale that's completely different, right?
Wait, I had a question.
It might be worse to be Muslim or Mexican than it is to be black right now.
Wait, I had a question.
We're not gonna play the oppression Olympics.
Yeah.
I said it might be. I didn't say we got to compete.
No, I got a question because you said physical. Have people tried to fight you over this?
I mean, look, I was bullied as a kid when I was saying stuff like in class.
Oh, he's a taekwondo master too, guys. So he can actually fight.
I mean, you gotta be. You out here talking to white people the way you are. You better know how to fight.
Honestly, it's less about knowing how to fight and more about knowing how to walk away. And just like, it's incredibly emasculating for someone who's like trying to be intimidating when you're just like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm gonna walk away. But
kind of. But sometimes you gotta deliver that face.
It's also emasculating to get your ass whooped.
Sometimes you gotta slap somebody in the face.
Let's put it this way: I'm rarely in a situation where people would be trying to fight where I'm not surrounded by enough people where it's not gonna be a problem.
Oh, got the whole crew involved.
So you got posse. I heard that shit.
I remember there was actually a moment where, you know, a couple of my closer friends, they were like, look, because I'm very much that type, especially before the videos blew up. Like, if there was a fight, I would always jump in the middle to break it up to make sure that my people was going to be okay, particularly so that when the cops showed up, you know, there was nothing going crazy. Like, I was always the one to talk to the police.
Definitely had to be the mouthpiece.
Of course.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Go ahead with
I was an interest at Kappa parties, and the cops would show up, and they'd be like, all right, Sam, go ahead.
Do what you gotta do, bro.
That's real. Sam, go get the dope.
That's how you give back to the community, Sam. Taking one for the team. We appreciate that.
But he's not going to have to take one, and that's part of the inequality he's fighting.
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends. I mean, we've been in situations where I don't doubt that things would have been worse if I was not there, but where things didn't go great. I mean, cops being associated with Black people in the way that I am in those micro situations absolutely has consequences in the ways that you're perceived. But it's the extent to which I can use my whiteness to make things not as bad as they would have been. So like when we were handing out fucking official Villanova pamphlets for freshmen during orientation, and this cop started getting like all reckless with us about, well, you can't park here, blah, blah, blah. We're like, we're here with the school. And then he was like, okay, fine. We're like handing shit out, come back like 20 minutes later to the car. And he's like, where, like, you people been taking so long, like talking to this small group of Black people. And then I come running and I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to? Like, what do you mean, you people?
Pop, 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 pop. He was Black.
Did you actually say who the?
I was like,
I just.
I didn't say fuck, but I said like, who are you talking to?
No, that's okay. No. Well, yeah, because that's still too much, right? I'm just fascinated by the way that white people talk to the police because you guys don't have any fear. I was watching this. Yeah, I mean, I think
it's different though. This was actually what I was gonna mention earlier. Whether it's in the context of the police or in the context of like an environment where somebody's trying to fight, I had to learn, and I am proud that I learned this very quickly. I didn't have to be told multiple times, but I had to learn that if I act recklessly, I'm going to disproportionately endanger the very people that I was trying to protect.
Yep.
Right? So I don't talk recklessly to the police, because if I talk reckless to the police, they're going to shoot my Black friends, not me. Right? If I get involved in an altercation at a social event or wherever, my people are going to grab me and push me to the back anyway, and they're going to be the ones ending up having to deal with it, right? So I think in a way that is not entirely dissimilar from the way that police need to engage in de-escalation, allies need to realize that de-escalation is what's most important. So when you see like, there have been a couple viral clips of this where at different protests, you'll see like white people, particularly in Charlottesville, some racists would try and like grab one of their signs or something, and one of the white people will push them, and it'd be the Black activists who are like, what the fuck are you doing? If you start a fight, we're going to be the ones getting shot.
That's true.
You know,
I saw that firsthand in DC as well when we were protesting, and it was only the few white people. They had these book bags, and we were running up on the Walmart as we were walking by. They pulled out all these spray paint cans, started spray painting on the Walmart windows, and we were all like, no, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is gonna make us look bad. But the fact that white people feel like I can do anything. What are y'all talking about? Like, we should be. It's like, no, it's different for you. Like, if you do this shit, they're just gonna look at us like we're the ones being reckless, and so it's different. And the fact that there's this misunderstanding or like this lack of understanding, I guess, rather, about that. Like, we have to be so passive and we have to be so cautious. Don't do that. Don't do this. But I mean, they can do whatever they want because they're not used to repercussions.
Yeah, right. And then just to get like a little nerdy with it, just very briefly, I think that is a perfect example of the kind of centering of whiteness that happens in so many different circumstances. And it is the responsibility of allies to make sure that they are not centering whiteness if what they're actually trying to do is deconstruct white supremacy and contribute positively towards, progress, right? So that's something that I always try and negotiate with myself. Obviously, I'm not in a way centering whiteness in the sort of obvious ways we've talked about, but in the ways in which I take up space, right? The ways in which my platform exists because I am white and have been sort of identified as being different from other white people. And that is something that I have to make sure that I keep in mind so that I'm not taking up space in a way that is unproductive and in a way that is like opposite of the goals that I want.
So I'm glad you mentioned allies because I meant to ask this a long time ago, actually. What is an ally? And then to Des and G, do you believe in allies? Because I know we've spoken about this before where you're like, I don't believe in allies, So Sam, you consider yourself an ally?
Well, I think the word changes every couple of years. So there's that. So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, okay. So you want to backpedal now is what you're saying.
Damn.
Right, you know what I'm saying? I haven't even kicked off the kickstand yet. I'm just like putting it out there that every like 2 or 3 years, the academic community will kind of choose a different word. And the nuances are important, but I think in general conversation, whether we're using the term ally or co-conspirator or a host of other words, generally speaking, these are folks who are engaged in movements for progress that they do not directly identify with.
Okay.
Right? That you can care about something that doesn't directly impact you in the way that it directly impacts someone else. I do think that's possible. I do put myself in that category, but I think that a healthy skepticism is important, right? I don't have a problem when people have a healthy skepticism about me, right? You should have a bit of a healthy skepticism about me, right? But I think that it is possible. And I think that ultimately, there has been no successful social movement in this country that has not involved in some capacity people who do not directly identify with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like the second time I ever talked to you, I said I don't like white people, but then you still kept talking to me and like, I guess showing me that you're not like that, but still I'm not sure. Anyway, smooth orator. So you don't believe in allies?
No, I don't believe in that shit. I don't believe in allyship. Because I think it's, I think when you talk about allyship, I think that what most people end up doing is calling themselves allies, but it's not really up to you, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't.
But other people can call you that, and that's still a thing.
Yeah, but that's different though, because when I talk about allyship in this particular subtext, I'm talking about people who consider themselves allies, but they haven't been given that designation by somebody else, right? Like if I say I'm an ally to women, like I can't say that about me, like. A woman would have to say that, or multiple women, or like a group of women, or like I'm not the arbiter of what I can call myself in this particular situation.
You have to be endorsed,
right? So I got to be sponsored in, dog. Somebody got to jump me in. They got to jump me into the gang, say that I'm okay to say that I'm an ally to women or whatever like that. I feel the same way about white people. Also, I kind of feel like, and this is not an attack on you in particular, Sam, because I don't know you. Just talking about white allyship.
Also, okay if it was.
Oh, that's fine. So like I don't find like that a lot of white people are willing to put it all on the line. Like not that most people aren't willing to put it on the line. So that's not even like a white.
Like they're only down to a certain point.
Right. It's like, yeah, like nah. It's like, yeah, nigga, we gonna kneel. It's like, all right, that's cool. It's like, yeah, we gonna go to jail. It's like, okay. It's like, can we go kill the police? It's like, man, nigga, nah. So everybody gotta draw a line somewhere, right? But I also feel like with a lot of white people, and especially like just kind of like in this particular time where like so many people are doing like what I'm calling performative wokeness. It's like performative wokeness, performative allyship. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just people are just you're getting into these spaces where people are starting to kind of figure out, even if I'm not down with the cause,
like, that's cool.
I know how to look part. I know how to say the right words. I know that I can read Ta-Nehisi Coates and I can start quoting some shit from what he wrote. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then I can look like, you know what I'm saying, I'm down for the cause or whatever like that. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, I'm not, you know, all that shit is suspicious to me. You know what I'm saying? Which is why when I talk about, when I'm on Twitter and I'm talking about stuff like, you know, rape culture, I'm talking about, you know, things that happen to women and how we can protect women. I make very clear to say, I learned all of this stuff from women. I got this information from women. I got this tutelage from women because I don't want anybody looking at my words as having more, you know, as having more weight because I'm a man that said it and they think that I came up with all this smart shit by myself. No, I didn't. And that's my problem with allyship. Sometimes you can't tell who is actually coming up with this information and who is just borrowing shit from other people and performing this stuff. So that's why I don't believe in allyship, because I can't tell who is who.
I can't believe I'm coming to Sam's defense a little bit. But one thing, don't be smiling, Sam. But one thing.
No, I'm laughing because I don't think that there's anything to come to defense of. I don't think that was an indictment.
No, not to you. But I guess what I'm about to say is that it's about authenticity, right? And it's more so about this is really how I live my life. And I feel like I know you have mentors and people who are in an activist space that have like worked with you and talked to you and like you actively try to understand. And there are people who they did kind of like, what did you call it? Not jump him in. What did you say? Sponsor him or whatever. But like, tell me about how other activists and how other people of color or, you know, whatever other peers have said, you know what, you are real about this. Like,
wait, before he answers that, you gonna let Des answer the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Des, do you believe in allies?
I'll try to keep it short.
Because even G, you know what you said, you believe in them. You just feel like you can't be self-identified.
Right. I mean, like, what I'm saying is I'm suspicious of the entire idea of allyship in general, partially because I can't tell who's who and who's, you know, who's actually doing this shit and who's performing it.
Okay. Des.
So I believe that allies, this is gonna sound so fucked up. But I've seen it too many times to happen. It's either you die the hero or you live up to see yourself become the villain.
Every time.
I've seen it with so many people who I just be like, oh yeah, this person's legit. And then like a couple weeks later, they got a Twitter beef, and then they said some fucked up shit that they deleted from Twitter that you can no longer see. But all these black people are outraged, and you ask somebody, and you find out, yeah, well, they said, you know, blah blah blah. You're like, damn, that's horrible. I think that honestly, the best way to be an ally is literally like living that shit. I really do believe, like, it's crazy. Like, I know some white dudes. Like, I'll give you an example. There's this dude I've known all my life. His name is Bear. A white dude. Know my dad. They both work construction. Cool dude. Always been a white guy who just kept it real. He was like, this is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is something that, you know, white people do because they don't want to deal or they don't want to be around black people. Like Bear and a few other people I've talked to, the thing about allyship, the thing about supporting black people is that everybody supports people, right? We all are supportive. I mean, yeah, you have your racist and horrible people. The problem is once you start caring for people that your actions then affect them, right? You can never, the hero, you can never threaten the hero. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kick your ass. The heroes will be like, fuck you, you ain't gonna kill me. I'll beat your ass. They say, I'm gonna kill the one that you love. Or when people say, I'm gonna go after your kids. It's very hard to ask white people to give up what they have achieved, what they want at the risk of not being able to feed, take care of, or provide safety for their children, for their seed. And same thing for black people. You can't ask that of any adult. We'll do anything for our kids, anything for the young people we care about. And it's very hard to see how an allyship extends to that point. I mean, so I believe in allies, but I believe that all allies have limits. All allies.
But that's really like all people, right? Like you said, like all people have a limit to which it's like, yo, are you really about to die for this shit? Are you really about to
I said earlier.
Out of this for this shit?
That's true. But my thing is this, right? With allies, yes, I believe in allies. No question about it. My only thing is like, I always see it go wrong. And I just want to see it not
I guess
go
the real
wrong.
question then is like, what's the limit for it? Because at the end of the day, you're still not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I kind of was thinking about what Negro and Andrew just said. I think the bar is just gonna be higher for people who are outside of that particular whatever to prove, because I feel like you have to prove allyship. Like that's not no shit that, well, let me rephrase. I think it is something that you should have to prove, because we have seen in the past when people don't, when the bar is low, then people will do things and you're like, well, why didn't I vet this person earlier? Right. And then as far as people fighting for like an activist cause, whatever cause that may be, you're always going to have people that are willing to go to people that are willing to go way deeper than other people. And for me, fair or not, I don't really give a shit. If you're telling me you're white and you're fighting for black people, I got to see like a whole lot from you that I probably wouldn't ask for from somebody else, because I generally don't trust white people to do anything in the interest of black people.
Yeah, and I think that that's a historically cogent argument too, right? I think that allyship, it's going to sound corny, allyship is a lifestyle. And the fact that we even have to give a language to a lifestyle of caring about other people and being invested in their well-being is a demonstration that there is such a problem and such a need for people to engage in that kind of a lifestyle, right? So do I think that there are levels to it and that there's sort of this weird go-between where you're like kind of new to this space and new to talking about these issues, and then you need to kind of work your way up, shall we say, whether it's with important cosigns or whatever the case may be. That's true. But at the end of the day, this is something that either you're ready to be vulnerable about, ready to be self-reflective about, ready to be invested in, to take a risk in. And I think that risk is inherent, right? When I talk to particularly white students and I'm like, hey, you got to get more involved, but you also have to be honest with yourself that there's risk in getting involved. Whether that risk is physical or not, that risk can come in the form of risking interpersonal relationships, whether it's with your friends or your family, risking money, right? A perfect example, like I remember when I first started, when the platform had developed and I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And kind of looking to do more speaking engagements and things like that. People told me, look, nobody's going to work with you if you talk about hostile things. Like you should just stick to fashion, or you should just stick to sort of something that's neutral. And I said, fuck that. I can't say that I care about all the things that I care about if when given the opportunity to do something about it, I'm gonna walk away. So have I lost all kinds of opportunities because of that? Yes. Have I gotten all kinds of opportunities because of it? Yes. I think that at the end of the day, the skepticism around allies is 100% warranted, particularly because now, more so than I think 2 or 3 years ago, like being woke is cool. Being woke is fashionable now. But only to a point, right? Just look at the way that brands operate on Twitter. You can tell which companies have actual black people working on their social media to address topical shit within black Twitter, right?
Is it Boston that does some crazy ass headlines?
Yeah.
Right, but that's all black people though.
Yeah.
Those are definitely. Those were definitely black people.
Like gossip. And
yeah, I mean, but I was even thinking, not even gossip. I was thinking like what's it? Fuck.
You got the hamburger helper. This shit was kind of fire.
Yeah, like hamburger helper. You have Wendy's.
Fat kids deals. But I think that dude's black though.
Yeah, that's definitely.
But I think he's got to be black. He's got to be black.
You can tell when there's that level of authenticity and the sense of genuineness that I think Lex was talking about, and that I think is where it matters. And that's the same message that I give to other white folks is, look, if you come into this space open to listen, open to learn, open to be vulnerable, and you're not full of shit, right? It's going to be okay, right?
It is going to be okay, because black people love inviting white people to the cookout. So you really, I mean, you tell them, not that you're telling them anything wrong, but like, if you really want to be down with black people and you're white and you feel like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to jump in because I don't know if they're going to accept me, trust me, it's going to be fine. As soon as you do some shit that everybody feels like it's okay, you take a cool picture or whatever the fuck, black people will invite you the fuck in, because that's just what the fuck we do.
And not just that, but I think, a really great example of this is people asking me, oh, did you receive negative sort of feedback? Did you receive backlash from the black community and or the black Greek community when you were joining Kappa Alpha Psi? Absolutely the fuck not. People were thrilled, right? I think the backlash came from white folks, right? The Divine Nine has been was literally designed to accept the very people who were not being accepted elsewhere. There is a culture of acceptance that has been in the African American experience in this country on a number of different levels. Black Greek life, is one of them, for 400 years, right? So I think that and that I think goes back to the fear that Lex was talking about in terms of white folks speaking up. It's in many ways unwarranted. Are there risks? Yes. Are they exaggerated more often than not? Also, yes.
How much control do you have over your own narrative? I remember, it was a long time ago now, but I remember at one point you did have to be on kind of little low-key crisis control when there was some article that people put out and they put a headline that made it look like you were like a savior type person or something. Yeah. And you had to just be like, I didn't make the headline, guys. I didn't make the headline, guys. I didn't make the headline, guys.
I actually remember
and
that.
It's like,
that's when I didn't know that you were the Kappa guy, but I remember
that. How much control do you have over your narrative, and how, have you become one of those people where it's like, listen, if I'm going to do an interview, if I'm going to talk to you, I need to see the whole shit before you put it out type thing, because, people are kind of, nitpicky about certain things and certain wording.
Well, I think that is, just a function of being sort of in the media space and being
famous hard, huh, Sam?
Yeah, who famous? I don't know what you're talking about. But no, I think that's about being responsible. I think that's about taking what I do seriously and learning the industry in a way that I think is responsible.
Because that can be damaging to you, though. How other people try to frame something.
The crazy part is, okay, so let's use that example. It was an interview I did with the Daily Dot, and the interview was not bad. The girl who wrote it is a really wonderful person. She's a good writer. She's a good person. Right? We had a good conversation. And then her editor, and what's wild is, so the headline they ended up choosing was trash. And there were a bunch of edits that her editor made to the piece that were trash. And I had to come out and be very specific about what I'm okay with and what I wasn't okay with. What was interesting about that is when she shared the original idea for the headline, I said, if you put that headline out, I have to come out publicly, like before it even drops, and say that I reject this and it is unacceptable, right? The original headline was like, meet the white face of Black Lives Matter movement or something like that. I was like, that
doesn't sound good at all.
I was just like, if you put that out, I'll have to publicly condemn the article before it even comes out. And then the one that they ended up going with, which they didn't clear with me because I guess they saw how I responded to the first one, was problematic. But I don't think that was even that wasn't a case. I didn't do anything wrong, right? I think that's part of the easy thing here is that when you're not in a position where you're putting yourself in difficult situations, it's very easy to say, hey, look, I agree with you, right? So why don't we take a moment and look at the quotes, right?
People don't read, Sam.
No, people don't read.
Headline. And they share, like, I told y'all, this nigga thinks he's like our face for our movement, blah, blah, blah. And that's all it takes.
And all I can do, right, is, control my narrative to the extent to which it's possible and say, hey, look, I agree with you on this front. This is what I would have done differently and whatever. I do think that one of the things I try and do that I don't see a lot of with the way that people engage in social media in general is if I'm getting criticisms, whether or not they are entirely fair, I still have to ask myself the question, what could I have done so that you didn't feel like you were going to feel like this, whatever type of way you was feeling, right? So is there a way in which I could have better communicated my narrative or better communicated my idea so there wasn't a misunderstanding, even if it wasn't my quote unquote fault, right? Mm-hmm. And that I think has been hugely helpful in for me as I've done interviews, as I've learned lessons, as I've been talking with folks, whether it's in a public engagement context or a private interview context, whatever the case may be. But that's a question people don't often want to ask themselves. They'll be like, oh, well, it wasn't my fault, guys. What the fuck? And they get all defensive.
Mm-hmm. And that's usually That's usually what Negro Android's talking about earlier, where it's like is some shit happens and it's like, oh my god, the pressure's too much, and it's like, fuck you niggas, and it's like throw it out. Damn, bro, it's not that serious, man. All you had to do was log off, you would have been straight. And then when stuff like that happens, it's like, see, I told you that nigga wasn't down for real. Because now look at this motherfucker. Now we gotta go search some tweets. Now we gotta go find Facebook posts. We gotta look at them Tumblr things that you thought only you and two other people was reading. It's like that shit, unfortunately, or fortunately, however the fuck you want to look at it, it's like that's what our experience is. It's like, look at Jesse Williams, for example, right? Like that whole shit with Jesse Williams doing the speech, and everybody was like, yes, Jesse Williams, yes, bitch, word, throwing panties at their fucking Twitter screen and shit, right? They find out he cheated on his wife, and all of a sudden Jesse Williams ain't shit. And it's like, damn, it's kind of fucked up. But I mean, he put himself in that situation.
It's like, we put people on these pedestals, and it's like everybody's fucked up. But to what things are we gonna accept or not accept? And I mean, are really extreme.
We all the time, and absolutely no comment on the Jesse Williams thing. I'm not referring to that in any capacity.
No, that's cool. I wasn't telling you. I mean, you probably got like way more personal shit that that you can't say because I know nobody give a fuck about me. So you're good.
No. I just meant like that's just not I ain't gonna get involved in that. But I will say, it's a combination, right? We often put people on pedestals who don't fucking deserve a pedestal at all, right? We put people on pedestals who do not fucking deserve it by any stretch of the imagination, and then we're surprised when they meet the expectations we should have originally had for them. There's that problem. There's also the problem of putting people up on a pedestal and then kind of taking satisfaction in finding a way to tear them down. And
that's Twitter.
But see, the thing is, that's part of Twitter. It's part of Twitter, but it's not all of Twitter. And I think that, are there problems with the way that people engage in social media? I think we're all aware that there are definitely problems, and not just problems in sort of the big picture, like there's Nazis on Twitter business, but in terms of the way that people enjoy a good dragging, right? But I think that if we, particularly for like kids coming up in this social media world, like, I was always taught, like, don't put anything on the internet that you wouldn't want on a billboard, right? That's kind of like how I came up in it. And that's gotten me out of a lot of shit because I haven't shared ideas that have been half-baked, right? So I think that is huge. And more than anything, I just don't understand why people get so defensive. Like, I get it. I've felt the pressure. It's happened at this point probably 5 or 6 times where I've really, a whole bunch of people have been jumping to my mentions on some wild shit. And I'm just like, but it's really not like that, and you kind of want to just scream like, but I do, like shit. But all it really takes, by the way, is not doing it alone too. And this is, I think, when you can see the true colors of the people who are surrounding themselves in the work and the people who are affected by it versus the people who are kind of like doing this in a bubble, right? So when that happened with that article, I jumped on the phone with my best friend and I was just like, look, this is what's going on. He's like, Sam, don't worry about it. Like, just take your time, say what you got to say. Like, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and when people feel like they're alone, they then get into that, like, backing themselves into a corner routine. And then they're like Patrick throwing the N-word, and the me. So I think avoiding that is crucial, especially if you ain't do nothing wrong. And if you did do something wrong, also people just don't know how to apologize. Like the Cam Newton reporter. Any apology for racist behavior that doesn't use the word racism is meaningless.
There's a lot that goes into this. Like, how you react to things is going to determine if you can keep going or if you just fade to black on shit. So
it also can become the story itself.
It's an appreciable tightrope that you find yourself under, especially like when you have as big a platform as you do, or in Cam Newton's case, that reporter put herself on, where you always, I mean, if you're really about the work, then always being cognizant is kind of like whatever. But I mean, I can appreciate somebody who is actually, somebody who appears to be, as you appear to be, like a person who is actually taking these things seriously, and like you seem to be well read and well versed. I'm sure you got good people in your ear, you know what I'm saying, that's like talking about these things, and like not talking about it in a way that feels like, I still can't tell if this motherfucker's actually down for the cause or not, but like being willing to be wrong and being willing to accept that criticism and stuff like that. Like, I think that shit goes a long way to making, talking about that authenticity that we were talking about earlier.
I like to joke that if a black woman hasn't told you to shut the fuck up at any point in your life, you haven't done anything right. You know what I'm saying? And that's like part joke, but part serious, and it applies in all things. But But I also think with the Cam Newton situation, like, to be honest, that was a huge blown opportunity for both of them, right? Because if her tweets get discovered, everybody's like, oh shit, you're like kind of a racist. You don't deserve the sexism, but you're definitely a racist. That's when she could have come out, and instead of giving some half-assed apology that apologizes for nothing, she could have said, look, I am deeply sorry, but all the PR language, but basically say like, look, I fucked up. I would love to start a conversation about how I can improve myself and my worldview, right? At the same time as we address the issues that I experience, right? And then you could turn it into this, like, we are the world, everybody together. Let's build, let's connect, let's do good shit. But it would actually be genuine. And instead she was like, my bad,
So here's the thing, 2 points on that, right? One, that wasn't in her heart, because if it was, she definitely would have been the person to be like,
clearly.
Yeah, like, oh, I fucked up. She was like, this is from 4 or 5 years ago. And then two, you couldn't even have black people you couldn't have people defending it, because it ended up being a thing where people were like, no, don't focus on what she said. Focus on what Cam said. This is about
that was definitely white people.
Two people can
that was white women specifically.
Right, no, that was
very clear.
So here's the thing. All those people were focusing on, like, it was like, hey man, I can't even trust y'all, because all of y'all jumped out the woods and was like, this isn't about racism, this is about sexism. And it's like, two things can be wrong at the same time.
Yeah, I think that
aren't smart.
Daz was upset.
No, because that was the thing, right? Where you had all of it. You had a black dude, because here's the thing, right? You have a black dude, probably the most persecuted of the group, right? And that's probably not fair, because you have queer and LGBTQ people that aren't centered, but they are more, crucified than black men. But then you had this black guy, and you had this white woman who is usually the most upheld and protected person in the society. So it was like, oh, look, both of you are wrong. We can both acknowledge it. And she did neither. Because like Cam Newton's apology, while it was, yes, verbose and very, like, I didn't feel it. I was like, look, Cam, because it wasn't even like Cam was coming out and saying this shit hatefully. Cam was just like, oh, well, look at that. Like, it was really, that's who we were.
No. It doesn't matter. No. Don't do that.
I'm about to say, don't defend shit.
Don't even appear. No. Don't even appear. No, it did sound like you were kind of like, he didn't say it seriously. It doesn't matter how he said it. It's like, just can't see that.
I'm sure you don't say.
He gave the right apology. He gave the right apology. I'm just saying what he did. It's like if a white person says, oh man, fucking black people. And it's just like, if you come out and apologize saying that, I'm gonna be like, sure. But you said what you said. That was like pillow talk.
Wait,
you told me what was really in your heart.
I took what Des said differently, right? I took it as the apology doesn't mean as much, because that was such a natural reaction for him to laugh off a woman talking about football that this is clearly representative of a larger culture in the locker room and a larger idea that he has about the way women's role in the world, right? And similarly, I think her apology demonstrated the same level of sort of, I'm just a racist, right? And I think that, I think to Lex's point, I don't know if it's that, maybe I'm just being a little corny and optimistic here. I don't know if it's that people aren't smart or they don't want to be smart. Right?
They don't want to be smart because they're not smart.
It's more devious. They're intelligent and they're pretending to be dumb.
Yeah, because I think it's really easy. Like, you can say on one hand that, like, people juggle multiple things all the time. It's just a question of whether or not they want to. So I think that's a great example. Because the other thing, by the way, that in a perfect world, we would not only have addressed his sexism and her racism, but we would have addressed the ways in which his sexism is a part of a misogynoir culture that also made it a whole lot easier for him to throw Kaepernick under the bus for over a year and then fake throw this like black power fist after a touchdown, as if that makes up for him throwing another black man under the bus deliberately on several occasions. And fuck all the Kaepernick shit. Cam has had problems talking about anything that isn't football for years.
Yeah, Cam's not that smart either.
He
writes Instagram captions in hieroglyphics. So
let's not forget the Carolina Panthers. It was released that it was discovered that the Carolina Panthers literally hired someone. They hired white people to help Cam talk about race in the press conferences when he's being asked about this, that, and the third.
Oh yeah,
I'm still working on starting a consultancy for that. By the way, I'm about to get some athlete clients and entertainment clients where every morning I talk to them and say, "This is what the fuck people are talking about. You need to understand your point.
This is what you need to understand.
Yep, and you need to put. I'm dead ass literally still like kind of working on that.
Here's some bullet points, niggas.
Kind of literally.
Shut up. Shut up, Sam.
All right, wait.
I'm kind of working on it.
Switching gears a little bit. All right, we got all the deep talk. How did y'all come up with the name for this podcast? And I have my own opinion on who's who. So if we're comparing this to NWA, Lex is definitely Ice Cube.
Oh shit!
Get the fuck out of here, bitch! What the fuck?
That's exactly why.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Right? Okay, so you just proved my point. That's
exactly why.
I think Dez is Dr. Dre.
Thanks. I'll take that.
That's.
And I think,
see, I'm about to get in the booth right now and get in the booth on you.
Okay, wait. So where'd the come on, help me out here. Where'd the name come from?
Wait, I need to know who Eazy-E is because that's important.
Yo, notice how I trailed off. I was waiting for somebody to pick it up. Say nothing, you know what I'm saying?
You just wanted to call me Ice Cube. You jerk.
I did.
He was like, "Bitch, what the fuck?" And then he's about to write a diss track. So that's.
I'm still writing the diss track. It's coming.
And Dez is so chill, so I feel like he got to be Dre.
All right.
Minus the women beating part.
Right.
Minus the what?
Minus the women beating part.
Oh, I was about to say, nigga, I've never beat a woman. What the fuck?
Yeah,
we know.
It's like,
said minus that part.
I guess in order to give you the history because I'm new.
So we started the pod. God damn, man, it's been like 3 fucking years now. Oh, about to be 4 years. So like, yeah. So me and Negro and Android know each other from undergrad.
Okay, where'd y'all go?
I went to Florida State. He went to FAMU, which is like across the street from each other.
Yeah.
And then Des used to come to my house. So we used to like rap and pretend that we were gonna make albums and all this other bullshit.
First of all, we made a bunch of mixtapes.
We sure did make a bunch of mixtapes.
We both was on SB at the same time.
No, we don't need that. As a matter of fact,
nobody needs it.
Nobody needs
it.
No,
so, it wasn't bad. It's not who I am.
So I knew Five Fifths, who was one of the original members. We all knew him from Twitter, and then me and Tunde, Talk 7, we used to hoop together. And then one day we were all kind of joking about like starting a podcast. We was just talking about like a bunch of different shit. We was like, man, we should start a podcast. And they was like, yeah, we should do it. And I was like, well, I can come to my house. I got a computer, and then my girl make dinner, and then we could do it. So everybody kind of came over, and then we were like, well, we're gonna name the podcast.
I'm kidding.
You said what?
I said sexist because you said your girl make dinner, but I'm kidding.
No, I mean.
Nah, Kim be on point though. Look,
nah, she really do.
She be providing them snacks and then just go to the back. You be like, okay,
right? No, I'm getting to it. So we was all kind of sitting around the table. So we was all kind of sitting around the table or whatever, and we're just kind of like, what are we gonna name the podcast? And we just kind of like, we're throwing out these random ass names, and then Negro Angela was like, we're gonna call it Niggas with a Podcast. I'm like, dog, we cannot call it Niggas with a Podcast. We can't do that. And I think Five Fifths was like Negroes, and we just kind of like Negroes with a Podcast. And we just kind of like, that's kind of like the best option that we had at the time because we were getting ready to record. So we just like, fuck it. And the name just kind of stuck. So
I like it. I fuck with it. Y'all was on the podcast tip before anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you said that. Because I'm tired. I'm tired of thinking it and just being like, I don't want to be a hater.
He's definitely easy. He's definitely one like, yeah, recognize.
I'm tired because like, and this isn't even like a disrespect. And like, I'm definitely happy that people got podcasts. We getting these opinions out. It's all this black excellence. Is beautiful. But so a little bit of part of me occasionally feels like when I see these lists and they're like, listen to these podcasts, and I'm just like,
how are we not on this shit?
We ain't never on nobody's shit. Never. We got on Business Insiders podcasts before we got on some black people shit.
That's true.
I'm just like, dog, really? Like, we were really here. Like, we were really in the trenches recording with like one with like one laptop and shit.
We all used to live in like the DC, Maryland area too. That was another thing. The podcast used to be centralized. Now this shit is coast to coast.
It's just coast to coast, spanning time zones.
Shout out to the DMV though.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. So that's how we started that.
Wait, so how did Lex get involved?
Are you the interviewer or are we the interviewer?
Okay. What you got? I'm ready. Go ahead.
Let the man ask his questions. Lex got involved because.
Go ahead, Q.
Tell him how I got involved.
No, Lex, you answer.
No, I don't want to answer it.
No,
okay,
it's fine. So Lex got involved. Like she originally was kind of like her and Five Fifths are like really
I was
cool.
a water
So she
boy
was
at
like,
first.
yeah, she was like, oh, I kind of want to come and see how you guys record or whatever. She's supposed to be like the business manager, sort of like try to figure out how we do the social media thing. Because really, when we just
and I guarantee you, she was like, what you're not gonna do is not let me talk.
Wow, actually, you're fucking wrong, Sam.
God damn.
I don't know what kind of beef y'all motherfuckers got.
Yeah,
But
for real.
so, but no, like
You gotta get fired.
she came to like one of the recordings or whatever, and she was like, you guys should do this, you guys should do that, blah blah blah. She's kind of been like the unofficial like social media sort of like, right? She's like full of ideas, and we're just all kind of like, we just want to record a podcast. We're like Nas, and she's like Steve Stout. We're like, we just want to record a podcast, just want to make art. And she's like, nah, nigga, you gotta get paid. So and then like when Five Fifths left, it was just me, Tunde, and Negro and Android, and then Negro and Android stepped off. And we were just kind of like, well, we can't just run the 2-man weave with me and Tunde. We need a third person. And like we was like, well, Lex is kind of cool, and she kind of fuck with us, and she kind of, we could kind of use her talents. We can kind of use her talents to make the podcast bigger. And also, like, we didn't have, I mean, it was 4 dudes on the show. Yeah, so not that there was anything wrong with that, but we were like, we would guest feature women, but we were like, we didn't have like a permanent woman. So we was like, well, kind of 2 birds with 1 stone. Like, we can get Lex, she's a woman, she has great opinions, and she fucks with the show, and she can help us out, like, making this whole thing bigger. So that's how Lex got on here.
See, Lex, I asked the question, was a huge setup for you to get a nice little compliment. See?
I know. He called me Steve Stout. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
All right, Cube, what question you got?
We're done. We've been asking questions the whole show. So, all right, let's wrap this up. And I just want you to give us your final speech on what are you working on? What's important to you right now? What are you working on? What do you need from people? Anybody listening? What is your words of advice to them? And how can people connect with you?
Whew, okay.
That's
a lot.
I know, sorry.
All right.
Well, what are you working on? Like, what do you want?
Break it down. We'll break it down. We do what am I working on? And then I don't even remember the rest of the questions. Okay. So right now I'm doing my best to speak with as many high school students and college students and even some middle school students as I can. I'm really been lucky to travel the country a little bit, and I'm looking to do that more. I think those are the events that I have so much joy with, because you get to connect with people in not sort of a digital space. You really get to sit down and you get to read the room, and you get to really kind of go on off all the different tangents. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. I'm also working on a video series, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. Kind of like a cross between like a TV style show and a YouTube thing, and it's going to be cool. I'm working on some of the back end stuff right now. And a quick call out, if anybody has any ideas, like names for this little show, I ain't got shit right now. So there's that. But yeah, I mean,
with guests, or it's just like you. It's like what type of show is it? What would you?
It's like a talk show, right? So there's like a whole bunch of segments that are just me, and then we'll have a guest. But kind of like Jesus and Miro, but white, and like I'm not funny like they are. Yeah, so I'm working on that. I've really been lucky. I sort of get to oscillate back and forth between the political space and activism and sort of more cultural stuff with music and stuff like that. So I'm just here for the ride.
Must be fun to be an influencer.
I'm definitely, like, that is a title that I just really don't like, and you getting so much joy out of like digging that knife in. Now, look, I think
you are what you are. You have to accept it. If people pay you to wear their clothes and stuff, you're an influencer, bro.
But I mean, on the real though, I think that I structure my work in that space very different than an influencer would, right? It's more like an endorsement, right? It's more like I want to get brands to sign on to things that I'm already doing. And I want to particularly get white-owned companies to get invested in the work that I'm doing for underrepresented communities, right? That I think is the goal, as opposed to just like, hey, wear this jacket and go do this, right? And go take some pictures. I think that's a little different. Plus, quick little, just never can have too much shade in one podcast. Like, not everybody who's an influencer got influence. So, I don't like to put myself in that category.
All right, I don't feel like arguing on that, so... I'll next ask you, how can people connect with you, and do you like people like reaching out to you, and
Yeah, I'm weird. I love
talking to people.
I love talking to people. I like meeting people. I'm not one of those people on the street who's like, oh no, I'm busy. Like people all the time will tell me like, oh, like I saw you on the train, but I didn't want to say anything. I'm like, no, please say hi. Like I'm not weird. I don't bite. But no, you can catch me on all the, you know, the Twitter verses and the Instagrams and all the Snapchats at Sam Whiteout everywhere. You can text me 917-983-4308.
What? You said that so fast. Repeat that number.
917-983-4308.
Cool.
But yeah, I'll be in New York, but I'm all over.
Send nudes. I mean, not to me, but to him.
Nah, Lex just asked for nudes, y'all. Go ahead, send them.
I don't need those.
At Lextopia on Twitter.
It used to be a time every morning I used to wake up to breasts, and now those days are gone.
Wait, what?
We're not gonna talk about that though.
Pictures.
We're not gonna talk about
Y'all gotta have me back so I can interview Lex about waking up to breasts every day. That's a conversation I think people need to hear.
Hey, it's a lifestyle, you know. Some people are activists. Some people just used to wake up to nudes. So
some people do both.
Oh.
And with that said, that is Negroes for the podcast featuring
oh
Sam.
my God.
And yeah, we'll be back sometime next week. Peace.
I'm super done with him right now.
I said peace. Stay peace.
We're done. Peace. Oh, sorry, peace. Bye.
I'm gonna raise my voice, motherfucker.
All right,
All right, I'm gonna hit stop on this actual thing.
All right.